Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every man's life when the silence in his home speaks louder than the noise of the world. He wakes up to an empty room, walks through a house filled with echoes, and sits at a table where no one waits for. The world around him is rushing forward, couples holding hands, laughter in the air, love stories unfolding before. Yet he walks a different path, not because he cannot love, but because life has led him to a place where he must stand. Loneliness is not always a choice, but how a man faces it defines his strength. There are those who believe that without a partner, without a hand to hold, without a voice calling their name in the night, life is incomplete. But what if I told you that the solitude of one man can hold more power than the distractions of 1,000 voices? What if I told you that in the quiet, in the stillness, in the moments where no one watches? There in that space, a man discovers who he truly is. This is not a story of despair, nor is it a cry for sympathy. This is a story of resilience, of faith, of a man who chooses to walk this road with his head held high, knowing that his worth is not determined by whether someone stands beside him. Because when the world says, you need someone to complete you, is a deeper voice, whispering you are already whole. There is a common misunderstanding in the world today that being alone is a sign of weakness. People often assume that a man who lives without a partner, without a girlfriend, without someone constantly by his side must be lacking, must be incomplete, must be in need of fixing. But the truth is far greater than that. Solitude is not a burden. It is a gift. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a training ground for stress. Think of the great men in history, the ones who changed the course of the world. They were not always surrounded by. Many of them walked alone for long seasons of their lives. They spent time in deep thought, in prayer, in reflection. They did not fear the silence because they understood that silence is where strength is built. It is in solitude that a man truly meets himself, where he faces his deepest fears, his greatest doubts, and his most powerful dreams. When a man is alone, he is given the opportunity, develop something that many never will enter in the noise of. It is easy to lean on others to let their voices drown out the whispers of his own soul. But when he walks alone, he has no choice but to. He hears his own thoughts, his own struggles, his own questions about life. And in that process, he learns to stand. He learns to be his own anchor, his own foundation, his own. This kind of strength is not found in. It is not developed in constant company. It is forged in the fire of solitude. It is in the quiet moments when no one is watching that a man discovers what he is truly made of. He learns that his worth is not determined by who loves him, who stands beside him, or who calls his name in the night. His worth is found in his character, his integrity, his ability to walk forward even when no one is cheering him on. Society has painted a picture that a man without a woman is somehow lost. But what if he is not lost at all? If instead he is being refined? What if his solitude is not an accident, but a divine? What if this time alone is not meant to break him, but to build him? The world sees a man sitting alone and assumes he is lonely. But what if he is sitting in the presence of something greater? What if he is listening to a voice that others are too distracted to hear? Strength is not found in the easy places. It is not built in. It is shaped in the moments where a man has to face himself, where he has to wrestle with his own thoughts, where he has to decide who he will be when no one is looking. A man who learns to stand strong in solitude is a man who be shaken when the storms of life come. He has already faced his greatest battles alone, and he has won. Think of the warrior who trains in the mountains far away from the noise of the city. He does not need an audience. He does not require applause. He trains in knowing that when the time, he will be ready. He does not question his purpose simply because he walks alone. He knows that his strength is being built in the hidden places in the moments. And so it is with a man who lives alone. His life is not empty, is full of preparation. His days are not wasted. They are being used to refine him. He is not without. He is being led in ways that only those who embrace solitude can understand. He is learning patience, discipline, focus. He is developing a kind of strength that is unshakable, that is not dependent on circumstances or people. There will be times when doubt creeps in, when the world's voice tries to convince him that he is missing out, that he, complete. But those who know the power of solitude do not give in to those lies. They understand the true strength is not found in being surrounded by people, but in knowing who you are when you stand alone. A man who embraces solitude is not running from love. He is preparing for something deeper. He is not afraid of companionship. is simply not desperate for it, knows that his value is not tied to his relationship status. His worth is not measured by who chooses him. His identity is not wrapped up in whether he or not this kind of man walks with, not because he has everything, but because he knows that what he lacks does not define him. He is aware that solitude is not a curse, but a season of growth. He does not waste his days longing for someone to complete him. Instead, he uses his days to become complete within himself. And when the world looks at him, when they wonder how he can stand so strong, how he can walk with such purpose, despite being alone, they will see the truth. They will see that solitude is not a sign of weakness. It is a training ground for strength. It is where a man is made, where his heart is tested, where his soul is refined. The man who learns to stand alone is the man who will never be shaken, no matter what life brings. A man's worth is not defined by his relationship status, but by his purpose. This is a truth that the world often forgets. Society places so much emphasis on finding love, on being in a relationship, on having someone to call your own, that it begins to paint the picture that without a partner, a man is somehow lacking. But let me tell you, a man's worth is not tied to whether or not he has someone standing beside him. His value is not determined by whether he is in a relationship or whether he walks this journey alone. His worth is found in something far greater, his purpose. Purpose is what gives a man meaning, is what drives him forward. It is what makes him wake up each morning with determination in his heart. A man who has a purpose is never truly alone, because his mission in life fills his soul in ways that no human companionship ever could. When a man understands his purpose, he does not waste his time searching for validation from others. He does not measure his worth by who loves him or who chooses him. Instead, he stands firm in the knowledge that his life has meaning beyond relationships, beyond emotions, beyond fleeting moments of affection. At history, the greatest men who have ever walked this earth were not defined by whether or not they had a girlfriend, a wife, or a romantic partner. They were defined by what they accomplished, by what they stood for, by what they gave to the world. Impact was not measured by the relationships they had, but by the purpose that burned within them. They were driven by something greater than personal happiness. They were driven by a mission, a calling, a reason for existing that went beyond themselves. A man who knows his purpose does not crumble under the weight of loneliness. He does not feel incomplete simply because he is not in a relationship. Instead, he uses this time, this season of solitude, to build himself, to refine his skills, to grow stronger in his faith, in his knowledge, in his ability to contribute to the world. He does not waste his days longing for someone to complete him because he knows that he is already whole. He does not seek a relationship out of desperation, but out of abundance, knowing that when the time is right, love will not be something he needs, but something he can give. The world will try to tell him. It will tell him that a man without a woman is somehow broken, that he is missing out on life, that he is incomplete. But a man who understands his purpose does not listen to the noise of he listens to something deeper. He listens to the calling that was placed in his heart long before he ever thought about relationships. He knows that his value does not come from romance, but from what he was created to do. Purpose gives a man strength. It gives him direction. It gives him a reason to wake up every day and fight for something bigger than himself. A man without purpose will always feel lost, even if he is surrounded by love, but a man with purpose will never feel empty, even if he walks alone. That is the difference. That is what sets apart the men who make a difference from the men who simply exist. Think of the warrior who trains in. He does not train so that he can impress someone, does not fight so that he can gain approval. He fights because it is his calling, is his purpose, knows that the battle is coming and he prepares for it. Whether or not anyone sees him, his strength is not dependent on applause. His worth is not tied to who recognizes him. He is driven by something deeper, something unshakable. And so it is with a man who understands his purpose. Does not seek validation from he does not measure his worth by the number of people who love him. He knows that his life is meant for something greater. He knows that he was not placed on this earth simply to be shipped, but to fulfill a mission, to make an impact, to leave a legacy. A man who chases purpose over validation is a man who be broken. He does not crumble under loneliness because he knows he is never truly alone. He does not seek love out of desperation because he is already fulfilled. His worth is not determined by whether or not someone chooses him because he has already chosen himself. And when the world looks at him, when they wonder how he can walk with such confidence, how he can stand so strong even without a partner, will see the truth. They will see that his strength does not come from who is beside him, but from the fire that burns within him. They will see that his worth is not found in his relationship status, but in the purpose that drives him forward. A man who knows his purpose is a man who is truly unstoppable. He is a man who cannot be shaken, who cannot be swayed, who does not need to search for meaning in others because he has already found it within himself. And that, my friends, is a life worth living. Loneliness is not an absence. It's an opportunity to grow deeper in faith and self-awareness. Many people fear being alone, as if solitude is a void that must be filled, as if an empty house, an empty chair, an empty bed signifies an empty life. But what if loneliness was never meant to be a punishment? What if the moments of being alone were not signs of something missing, but invitations to something greater? When a man finds himself alone, he stands at a crossroads. He can either see his solitude as an unbearable burden, something to escape at any cost, or he can embrace it. A season of growth, a time of refinement, a sacred space, can discover the depths of his own soul. Those who run from loneliness often run from themselves. They distract themselves with people, with noise, with anything that will keep them from sitting in silence and facing the deeper questions of life. But those who are brave enough to embrace solitude, to lean into the silence, to listen to what their heart is truly saying, are the men who grow. These are the men who become strong, not just in body, but in mind, in spirit, in wisdom. Loneliness has a way of revealing who a man really is when no one else is around to affirm him, to validate him, to tell him what to do. He is left with nothing but himself, and in that space he must decide without the influence of a relationship, without the expectations of others shaping his identity, he has the rare opportunity to strip away everything false and come face to face with his true self. This is where faith is tested. When a man is alone, he can no longer rely on the comfort of another person's presence to keep him stable. He must turn to something deeper, something eternal. He must find his grounding in faith, in a belief that he is not truly alone, that there is a greater purpose behind his solitude. It is in these moments that he learns to trust, to listen, to seek something beyond the physical world. Some of the greatest men in history have walked through long seasons of solitude. They withdrew from the world not because they were weak, but because they understood the true strength is built in the quiet places. They knew that in order to lead, in order to make an impact, in order to become who they were meant to be, they had to first find themselves in the stillness. They did not fear being alone because they knew that solitude was a classroom where wisdom is taught. A man who embraces loneliness as an opportunity rather than a curse begins to see life differently. He no longer views himself as someone who is missing out, but as someone who is being prepared. He understands that this season of being alone is not about what he lacks, but about what he is gaining. He is gaining inner. He is gaining a deeper understanding of himself and of the world around him. It is in solitude that a man can refine his thoughts sharp and strengthen his character when there are no distractions. When there is no one else to impress, he has the freedom to be honest with himself. He can evaluate his values, his beliefs, his goals. He can ask himself the hard questions. What do I truly want? What do I truly? Who am I when no one else is watching? These are the questions that many people avoid their entire lives. They stay busy, jump from one relationship to they fill their days with constant activity so that they never have to stop and think. But a man who is willing to embrace solitude, to sit in the quiet and wrestle with these questions will come out stronger, wiser, and more at peace. Those who spend their lives running from loneliness. Faith is not something that grows in. It is not something that develops when everything is going well. When a man is surrounded by love and companionship, faith is built in the moments when he has nothing else to rely on, when he must stand alone and trust that there is something greater holding him up. Faith is what carries a man through the seasons of solitude, reminding him that he is never truly alone, that even in the silence he is being watched over. Guided self-awareness is another gift that comes with embracing loneliness. When a man has time to reflect, to truly understand himself, he becomes more secure in who he is. He no longer seeks approval from others because he has already approved of himself. He no longer fears rejection because he knows his worth does not depend on anyone else's opinion. This kind of self-awareness creates confidence. Not the shallow confidence that comes from external validation, but a deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are. A man who has spent time alone, who has faced himself, who has taken the opportunity to grow in faith and self-awareness, is a man who is ready for anything. He is not desperate for a relationship because he has already built a full and meaningful life on his own. Is not afraid of being alone because he has learned to enjoy his own company. He does not feel the need to prove anything to anyone because he has already proven to himself that he is strong, capable, and whole. The world often views loneliness as a problem that needs to be solved. The truth is, loneliness isn't. It is an opportunity to step into something greater, up a deeper relationship with oneself and with God, to refine one's purpose and prepare for the future. It is not an absence, but a gift, a space in which a man can grow in ways that he never could if he was constantly surrounded by people. So when a man finds himself alone, he should not see it as a punishment. He should not rush to fill the space with meaningless. Instead, he should embrace it, use it, cherish it, because in that solitude, he will find something far greater than he ever imagined. He will find himself. Love should never be a search for completion, but an extension of wholeness. Too many people walk through life believing that they are incomplete, that they are missing a piece of themselves, that they need someone else to make them. They search for love like a missing puzzle piece, hoping that when they find the right person, everything will finally make sense, that all the emptiness they feel inside will be filled. But this is one of the greatest illusions the world has ever sold. Love was never meant to be a remedy for loneliness, was never designed to complete a person. Love is not about finding someone to fix. It is about being whole on your own and then sharing that wholeness with another. When a man understands this, he stops searching for love. Out of desperation, he stops looking for someone to fill his emotional gaps, to heal his wounds, to give him a sense of identity. Instead, he focuses on becoming the best version of himself. He works on his purpose, on his character, on his faith, on his mind. He does not rush into relationships just to escape loneliness, because he understands that loneliness is not something another person can. And cure it is something that must be faced and conquered within. A man who knows that love is an extension of wholeness is not afraid to be alone. He does not view solitude as a punishment, but as a time of preparation. He uses this time to build himself, to discover his values, to deepen his understanding of what love truly is. He does not settle for just anyone because he is not looking for someone to fix him. He is looking for someone who matches the strength he has already developed within himself. The problem with searching for completion in another person is that it places an unrealistic burden on them. No one else can carry the weight of your happiness. No relationship can permanently heal wounds that were meant to be dealt with individually. When two broken people come together expecting the other to fix them, the relationship becomes a cycle of neediness, dependency, and eventual disappointment. But when two whole people come together, when two individuals who have already built fulfilling lives on their own decide to share their journeys, love becomes something powerful. It is no longer about filling. It is about overflowing with something so strong that it naturally pours into another. A man who walks in wholeness does not seek validation from a relationship. He does not feel the need to prove his worth through romantic success. He knows that his value is already established, that his life already has meaning, that his purpose does not begin when he meets someone, but that it existed long before. His identity is not wrapped up in being someone's boyfriend or husband. It is wrapped up in something far deeper. Understanding changes. It shifts the way a man approaches relationships. He does not enter love with a sense of desperation, but with a sense of clarity. He is not looking for someone to complete him, but for someone who is already complete within themselves. He does not fall into relationships carelessly because he knows that love is not about fixing loneliness. It is about sharing purpose. Too often people settle for relationships that drain them because they have bought into the lie that they cannot be whole on their own. They stay in situations that make them unhappy because they believe that being alone would be worse. But a man who understands his own completeness refuses to settle. He knows that being alone with purpose is far better than being with someone just to escape loneliness. He is not afraid of waiting because he knows that real love is not about rushing. It is about alignment. Think of a strong tree standing alone in the middle of a vast field. It does not need another tree beside it to survive. Its roots are deep, its branches stretch toward the sky. It is not lacking simply because it stands alone. But when another strong tree grows beside it, they do not compete for survival. They do not drain each other. They stand tall together, rooted in their own strength, yet complementing one another in beauty and purpose. This is how love should be. Not two people trying to hold each other up because they cannot stand on their own, but two individuals who are already whole, already strong, already full of life, choosing to grow side by side. A man who understands this does not chase love out of fear. He does not settle for relationships that distract him from his purpose. He does not lower his standards just to avoid being alone. Instead, he spends his time building himself, working on his dreams, developing his character. He waits not because he is afraid of love, but because he values it too much to enter it carelessly. And when the right person comes along, he does not love them because he needs them, loves them because he chooses them. He does not cling to them out of fear of being alone. He walks beside them in strength, knowing that their love is not a crutch, but a shared journey. A man who knows he is whole is not threatened by solitude. He does not see singleness as a failure. He does not measure his worth by whether or not he has a romantic partner. He understands that love is not something to desperately seek, but something that flows naturally when the time is right. This kind of man is rare. He does not jump from one relationship to the next, looking for someone to fill a void. He does not fear being single because he knows that his value does not decrease just because he is walking this path alone. He moves through life with confidence, knowing that if love comes, it will be in addition to his already full life, not the foundation of it. When they wonder why he is not desperate for a relationship, when they ask why he is content, even in solitude, they will see the truth. They will see that he is not waiting for someone to complete him, is already whole, already strong, already living a life of purpose. And if love comes, it will not be because he needed it to. It will be because he was already thriving and he found someone who was doing the same love for him. Will not be a desperate search for completion, but a powerful extension of the wholeness he has already built within himself. A man's peace should never be dependent on another person. In a world that constantly pushes the idea that happiness comes from being with someone, that a relationship is the key to fulfillment, it takes true strength to stand alone and say, my peace does not depend on anyone but me. Many people place the weight of their inner peace on the shoulders of another person, expecting someone else to bring them happiness, to fix their emotional struggles, to calm their storms. But a man who understands his own worth, who has built his life on a foundation stronger than fleeting emotions, knows that his peace is something internal, something that no one else can give or take away, is not found in another person. It is found within. A man who relies on others for his emotional stability will always be at the mercy of their actions. If they love him, he is happy. If they leave him, he is broken. If they approve of him, he feels valuable. If they reject him, he feels worthless. Is not peace. This is dependency. And a man who lives in dependency can never truly be free. Peace is unshakable. It is not built on relationships, emotions, or circumstances. It is built on a foundation that remains steady even when everything around it changes. A man who has found true peace within himself is not shaken by loneliness. He does not rush into relationships just to avoid being alone. He does not seek validation from others because he has already validated himself. Does not need to be in a relationship to feel secure, because his security comes from something much deeper. Connection. This kind of peace is rare, but it is powerful. It allows a man to walk through life with confidence, knowing that no matter what happens, he will remain standing. This is not to say that love and companionship are not beautiful things. They are. But they should never be the foundation of a man's peace. A relationship should add to his life, not be the thing that holds it together. Too often, people enter relationships expecting them to bring stability, only to find that when the relationship struggles, their entire life falls apart. A man who has built his peace from within does not experience this. He enjoys love when it comes, but he does not depend on it for survival. If a relationship ends, he does not crumble because his foundation was never built on another person. It was built on something much stronger. When a man finds peace within himself, he no longer feels the need to prove anything to anyone. He does not chase approval, does not beg for attention, does not live in fear of being alone. He is content with his own company. He enjoys solitude not because he is antisocial, but because he understands the value of being at peace with himself. He does not need constant validation to feel worthy because he has already determined his worth. The world does not understand this kind of man. It looks at him and wonders why he is not desperate for love. He is not constantly searching for someone to complete him. It does not understand how a man can be happy, confident, and fulfilled without a romantic relationship. But the truth is, this kind of man has discovered something that many never will. He has discovered that real peace is not found in another person, but in knowing who you are and being completely secure in that knowledge. This kind of peace makes a man powerful. It makes him unbreakable. It allows him to walk through life with his head high, not because he is arrogant, but because he knows that nothing outside of him can destroy what he has built. He does not live in fear of being abandoned because he has never abandoned himself. He does not fear rejection because he has already accepted himself. A man who has mastered his own peace is the kind of man who does not need to chase love because love will find him. There is something deeply attractive about a man who is secure, who does not need a relationship to feel valuable, who carries himself with confidence. When love does come, it comes as a choice, not as a need. He does not enter relationships out of fear of being alone, but out of a genuine desire to share his life with someone. Too many people spend their lives running from themselves. They fill their days with distractions, with relationships, with anything that will keep them from sitting alone with their own thoughts. But a man who has found peace within does not run. He stands still. He faces himself. He learns to love his own company. He understands that his worth is not determined by whether or not someone loves him, but by the character he has built, the values he holds, and the way he carries himself through the world. This does not mean that life will always be easy. Even the strongest man faces challenges, struggles, moments of doubt. But a man who has built his peace internally knows how to withstand the storm. He does not allow circumstances to dictate his happiness, does not allow heartbreak to destroy him. He does not allow loneliness to define him, knows that no matter what, he will be okay because his peace is not something that can be taken away. It is something that lives within him. A man who has found his own peace is not bitter. He does not walk through life with resentment, blaming others for his struggles, holding grudges against those who have hurt. He understands that peace is not just about being alone. It is about letting go of anger, of pain, of anything that threatens to steal his joy. He forgives not because others deserve it, but because he refuses to allow negativity to take root in his heart. He moves forward not because he is unaffected by life's difficulties, but because he has learned how to carry them without letting them weigh him down. This kind of man is rare in a world that is constantly telling people they need someone else to be happy. Stands. He proves that wholeness is not found in another person, but in a deep understanding of oneself. And because of this, he is not shaken. He does not waver in the He does not waver in the face of love. He knows that his life has meaning, whether or not someone else is standing beside him. So he walks with peace. He does not panic. He does not let the opinions of others dictate his worth. He understands that real happiness does not come from being with someone. It comes from being at peace with yourself. And once a man has found this peace, nothing in the world can take it from him. A man who walks his path alone is not. He is strong beyond measure in a world that constantly glorifies companionship, relationships, and social validation. It takes a rare kind of strength for a man to walk alone, to build himself, without leaning on another, to carve his own path, without waiting for someone to walk beside him. This is not the walk of a man who has failed to find love, but the walk of a man who refuses to settle for anything less than his purpose. There is a misconception in society that being alone is a sign of failure, that a man without a partner is somehow incomplete. That solitude is a punishment rather than a privilege. But a man who understands his worth knows that solitude is not a curse. It is a gift. It is a space where he can grow without distraction, where he can sharpen his mind, where he can become exactly who he was meant to be. A man who chooses to walk alone is not doing so because he has no other choice, but because he values the journey, to walk with intent. This kind of man is not afraid of silence. He does not fear the empty spaces where others rush to fill the void with temporary distractions. He embraces these moments, knowing that in the quiet he hears himself the loudest. He does not need the noise of the world to define him. Because he has already defined himself, he does not require constant validation because he has already determined his own worth. A man who walks alone is not distracted by the expectations of others. He does not chase love out of desperation, does not measure his success by whether or not he has someone by his side. Instead, he measures his success by the depth of his character, by the impact of his work, by the strength of his convictions. He knows that a man's worth is not determined by his relationship status, but by the integrity of his soul. When a man walks alone, he is forced to rely on his own strength. There is no one else to pick him up when he falls, one else to reassure him when he doubts himself, no one else to push him forward when the road becomes difficult. And yet he keeps going. He learns to pick himself up, to encourage himself, to trust himself. He discovers a resilience that many never find because they have never had to on their own. This is the kind of strength that makes a man unstoppable when he faces challenges. He does not break. He adapts when he encounters setbacks. He does not quit. He learns when life knocks him down, does not stay there. He rises stronger than before. Because he has walked alone, he has learned how to survive, how to endure, how to thrive. Regardless of circumstances, many men fear solitude because they have never learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. They associate being single with being undesirable, as if their worth is dependent on someone choosing them. But a man who has embraced his own journey knows that his value is not tied to another person's presence. He is not single because he lacks something, is single. He is focused because he is waiting for something real, because he refuses to compromise his vision for temporary companionship. The man who walks alone is often misunderstood. People question his choices, wonder why he is not desperate for love, assume that he must be unhappy. But what they fail to see is that he is not walking in sadness, he is walking in purpose, is not alone because he is alone because he values his own company enough to wait. What aligns with him? He understands that settling for the wrong person is far worse than standing alone. This kind of man does not need to prove himself. He does not chase relationships just to fit in, does not bend his standards just to avoid loneliness. He stands firm in who he is, knowing that when the time is right, the right person will walk beside him, not out of necessity, but out of choice. Walking alone does not mean a man is disconnected. It does not. He does not experience love, friendship, or deep connection with others. It simply means that he is not defined by these things. He loves freely, but not out of fear. He connects deeply, but not out of. He chooses relationships that add to his life rather than ones that define it. And when the world sees him, they may not understand his journey. They may not comprehend how a man can be at peace without a relationship, how he can walk with confidence without a partner, how he can thrive in a world that constantly tells him he needs someone else to be whole. But he does not need the world's understanding. He only needs his own, because he knows that the strongest men in history, the ones who changed the world, the ones who left legacies that lasted long after they were gone, were men who were not afraid to walk alone. They were men who did not let society dictate their path, who did not let loneliness drive their decisions, who did not let the absence of a partner make them doubt their worth. They were men who knew that solitude is not emptiness, but power. That walking alone is not a sign of weakness, but a strength. That a man who can stand on his own is a man who can stand against. And so he walks, not with loneliness, but with purpose, not with desperation, but with confidence, not with emptiness, but with the fullness of knowing exactly who he is. And that in itself is more powerful than anything else the world can offer. A man who walks alone is not lost. He is focused. His strength is not in needing someone to complete him, but in knowing he is already whole. He does not chase love out of fear, but waits for what aligns with his purpose. His peace is internal, his confidence unshakable, and his path is defined by purpose, not pressure. The world may not understand him, but he does not seek its approval. He knows that true strength is not in avoiding solitude, but in embracing it, growing through, walking forward with unwavering resolve. Ladies, let me tell you, some relationships are a game of balance. Now, I'm not saying you should keep secrets, but there are some things a woman just shouldn't lay all out on the table. Why? Because men and women think differently, and some things are better left unsaid. Never tell a man everything about your past relationships. Look, we don't need to know every detail about your exes, how they hurt you, or God forbid, how they were better at something. The men are territorial, and the last thing we want is to feel like we're competing with a ghost. Imagine this. You're sitting with your man. Everything's going well, and suddenly you casually mention that your ex used to take you on surprise vacations, or knew exactly how to comfort you when you were upset. Now, even if your man doesn't say anything, that thought is stuck in his mind. He's now measuring himself against someone who's no longer even in your life. And what does that do? It breeds insecurity, doubt, and sometimes even resentment. Even if he loves you, there's a part of him that will always wonder if he measures up. Men are competitive by nature. We see life as a constant battle to be the best, to win, to conquer. When a man is with a woman, he wants to feel like he's the only one who has ever mattered to her. Now, I'm not saying you should lie or pretend like you've never been in love before. What the details? Those should stay in the past. A man doesn't need to know how many boyfriends you've had, who broke your heart, or even how much you cried over someone. What he does need to know is that you've chosen him, that you see a future with him in that. That's it. Another reason to keep your past relationships to yourself is because not every man is secure enough to handle the truth. Some men will take that information and use it against you. Let's say you tell him that your ex cheated on you and you forgave him. Now a man who isn't mature enough might take that as a sign that you're willing to tolerate cheating. He might not say it out loud, but deep down he knows that you've already shown that you have the capacity to forgive infidelity. Do you really want to plant that idea in his mind? There's also the issue of unnecessary arguments. You could be talking about something completely unrelated, and suddenly he brings up something you said about your past. Oh, so when your ex did this, you reacted differently. But when I do it, it's a problem. And just like that, an innocent conversation turns into a fight about someone who doesn't even exist in your life anymore. It's not worth it. Here's the thing, ladies. Every relationship is different. The way you loved before isn't the way you love. Now, the person you were in your past relationships isn't the person you are today. People grow, people change, and what mattered to you back then might not even be relevant now. So why bring it up? Drag your past into your present instead of focusing on what happened before. Put your energy into building something new. To let your man know that he's important to you, but don't let him feel like he has to live in the shadow of someone else. Give him the space to create his own memories with you, to be his own person in the relationship. A man wants to feel like he's writing his own chapter in your life, not just continuing someone else's story. Another thing to remember is that some men don't really want to know the truth. They just think they do. They'll ask you questions about your past, but deep down they're hoping you'll say something that reassures them. If you tell them too much, it might backfire. A man might ask, how many people have you been with? But do you really think he's ready for that answer? No matter what number you say, he's going to overthink it. Too high. He might start seeing you differently. Too low. He might think you're lying. It's a no-win situation. Men fall in love with the woman in front of them, not the one from the past. He's not dating the girl who got heartbroken at 21 or the one who made mistakes in her last relationship. He's dating a woman who stands before him now, and that's all that matters. So keep some things to yourself. Protect your relationship by not bringing ghosts into it. Let your past be your past, and let your present be something fresh and untainted. The less he knows about what came before him, the more he can focus on what he's building with you now. Never reveal all your weaknesses to a man. A good man will protect you, but even the best man has limits. If you expose every insecurity, some men, especially the wrong ones, might use it against you. Keep your strength in check and your dignity intact. Men respect strength. They are naturally wired to see the world in terms of power, control, and dominance. When a woman lays out all her vulnerabilities too soon, it can change the way a man sees her. In the beginning, a man is drawn to a woman's confidence, her ability to stand on her own history. But the moment she starts unloading every insecurity, every fear, every doubt, something shifts. Now, instead of seeing her as the strong, independent woman he was attracted to, he might start seeing her as someone who needs to be saved. And while that might work for a while, no man wants to carry that weight forever. Some women mistake openness for connection. They think that if they tell a man everything about their fears, their past traumas, and their weaknesses, it will bring them closer. But that's not how it works. In reality, too much vulnerability too soon can make a man feel overwhelmed. He might start feeling like he has to fix everything, like he's suddenly responsible for her emotional well-being, And that pressure can push a man away then. There's the issue of trust. Not every man deserves to know your weaknesses. Some men, when they see vulnerability, don't feel the need to protect it. They see an opportunity to manipulate. If you tell a man that you struggle with self-worth, he might start playing on that, making you feel like you're lucky to have him. No one else would want you. If you tell them you have a fear of being alone, he might use that to control you, making you believe that leaving him isn't an option. A woman's strength is her power. That doesn't mean you have to be cold or emotionless. It means that you should be selective about who gets to see your softer side. A man should earn that level of trust. He should prove that he's someone who will protect your heart, not play games with it. Even good men, when given too much vulnerability, can change. They might start taking you for granted. If they see that you're too dependent on them emotionally, they might stop putting in as much effort. They might start assuming that you'll always be there no matter what they do. When a man knows that a woman is strong, that she has standards, that she won't tolerate being mistreated, he respects her more. He knows he has to be his best self to keep her. Another reason to keep some things to yourself is because not all men can handle emotional depth. Some men struggle with their own emotions, let alone someone else's. If you pour out every deep fear and insecurity, he might shut down. He might not know how to respond, and instead of bringing you closer, it might create distance. It's not about being fake or hiding your true self. It's about understanding that not everything needs to be shared at once. A relationship should be built gradually with trust, growing over time. You don't have to test a man by handing him all your vulnerabilities at once to see if he can handle them. Let him show you through his actions that he's worthy of that level of trust. Men are drawn to women who have an air of mystery. They like to feel like they are uncovering new layers over time. If you lay everything out too soon, you take away that intrigue. A woman who knows how to hold back just a little keeps a man interested. She keeps him wanting to know more, to earn his place in her life. There's also a difference between sharing your emotions and being emotionally dependent. A woman who shares her thoughts and feelings while in her independence is attractive. A woman who leans on a man too much for emotional support can come across as needy. Men are naturally protectors, but they also need to feel like their partner is capable of standing on her own. They don't want to feel like they have to be the source of all their woman's happiness. Think about the strongest women you know. They don't reveal everything. They carry themselves with confidence, with a sense of self that isn't easily shaken. They don't let every little fear or insecurity define them. Don't give a man the power to break them because they keep some things for themselves. Some women think that love means complete transparency, that if a man truly loves them, he should know everything. But love is also about respect, and respect is built through strength. A woman who respects herself doesn't expose every wound, every scar, every doubt right away. She gives a man the best version of herself and lets him earn the rest. Time when a man knows that you are strong, that you don't need him to fix you. He values you more. He sees you as a partner, not as someone who needs saving. He respects your ability to handle life's challenges without crumbling. That kind of respect creates a deeper bond than vulnerability ever could. Women should never feel ashamed of their emotions, but they should also understand the power of holding back. Not every fear needs to be spoken. Not every insecurity needs to be laid bare. Something should be kept private, not because you're hiding, but because you are protecting your own strength. A man who truly loves you will take the time to understand you even without knowing every single detail of your weaknesses. He will see your strength, your confidence, and that is what will make him stay. Ladies, your financial details are not for full disclosure. It's not that a man should never know anything about your finances, but there's a difference between transparency and oversharing. Money, as they say, is the root of many problems in relationships. And while every healthy relationship should have open communication, your financial standing shouldn't be something you constantly bring into the conversation. It's crucial to maintain a sense of independence and mystery when it comes to your money, because as much as we hate to admit it, some men may not be as interested in your heart as they are in your bank account. Let's break this down. The truth is, money can be a powerful tool, but it can also be a source of tension. In any relationship, if you make a lot of money, that can create an imbalance in the relationship. If your partner feels insecure about his own financial standing, if you make less money, Some men might try to step in and control your spending habits, or even worse, see your financial position as something they need to fix or improve. Either way, revealing too much too soon can create unnecessary pressure. If you're the one making more money in the relationship, you need to be careful about how much you reveal. Some men may feel threatened if they perceive that they're not providing the same way you are. This can lead to them feeling emasculated, and they may start acting out in ways that are not healthy for the relationship. A good man wants to feel like he's contributing, but some men, especially those who are insecure or have pride issues, might start resenting the fact that you earn more. You don't want your success to be seen as a burden or challenge to their masculinity, even in a situation where you're making less money. Revealing your financial struggles can be a source of anxiety for both of you. Some men might want to step up and save you, but that dynamic can quickly turn toxic. You don't want to be in a position where your worth is tied to your financial struggles. You want your partner to love and respect you for who you are, not what you have or don't have. Money should never be the defining factor in a relationship. If you put all your financial cards on the table, you might inadvertently make money the focal point of your relationship instead of the bond you share with your partner. There's also the issue of competition. In some relationships, if one person is doing better than the other financially, it can create an unhealthy sense of competition. A man might start trying to outdo you, or he might start making decisions based on pride instead of practicality. This can lead to financial strain, unnecessary arguments, and even resentment. Keeping your financial situation private helps eliminate this competitive dynamic and encourages you both to work together to build a future, rather than trying to one-up each other. A great relationship is built on trust, respect, and mutual support. When you start bringing money into the mix too much, you risk shifting the focus away from what really matters: emotional connection, shared values, and it's important that both parties in a relationship are able to contribute without feeling like they're being judged based on their financial status. When your partner knows too much about your financial situation, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, guilt, or even resentment. The key here is balance. You don't want to hide everything from your partner, but you also don't want to lay it all out too soon. Over time, as the relationship deepens and trust builds, you can have more open conversations about your financial goals and obligations. But in the early stages, the last thing you want to do is let money dictate the dynamic of your relationship. You want your partner to love you for who you are, and not because of how much money you have or don't have. Let's also talk about financial independence. Financial independence is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have in a relationship. When you can handle your own finances, pay your own bills, and make your own decisions, you become a partner, not someone who relies on the other person for validation or support. There's power in financial independence because it gives you the ability to choose your partner for who they are, not because you need them to take care of you. A woman who is financially independent doesn't just bring her partner into her life. She builds a life together with him based on shared goals and dreams. Now, when it comes to sharing financial information, there are certain things you should keep private, at least in the early stages of the relationship. For example, you don't need to tell your partner how much debt you're in or how much money you owe. Financial struggles are a part of life, but they don't need to define you. If your relationship is built on solid emotional connections, the financial side of things will fall into place over time. You can discuss financial matters once you've established trust in a deeper connection. But in the beginning, don't let money define the relationship. Another aspect of money in relationships is expectation. When one person makes more money than the other, it can create different expectations around spending habits. If your partner knows too much about your financial standing, they may begin to expect certain things from you. Whether it's a lavish lifestyle, expensive gifts, or even more frequent vacations, these expectations can place a strain on the relationship. If you can't meet them, or if they feel like they're being imposed on, it's better to allow the relationship to grow naturally without the weight of financial pressure weighing it down. In relationships, there is beauty in the simplicity of connection. Money doesn't have to be a part of that connection. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that money equals success or that it defines your worth. But that's not true. Your worth is based on who you are as a person. The love you give, The support you offer and the respect you show to your partner by keeping your financial details private, you help protect your relationship from being corrupted by material concerns. There's also the risk of manipulation. Unfortunately, some people view financial information as leverage. If your partner knows everything about your finances, they might begin using that information to manipulate you into making decisions you wouldn't otherwise make. If a man knows that you're financially struggling, he might start using that knowledge to guilt you into doing things his way. Similarly, if you're financially successful, someone might start making decisions based on their own financial interest rather than what's best for the relationship. That's why it's important to be cautious about what financial details you disclose at the end of the day. A healthy relationship isn't about who has more or less money. It's about trust, love, and mutual respect. By keeping your financial situation somewhat private, you allow the relationship to grow organically without the added pressure of material concerns in the early stages. Let your connection be based on who you are as individuals, not how much you earn or how much debt you carry. Money will always be a part of the equation, but it should never overshadow what truly matters.